up. The budget to follow shortly after that, but I think the budget to follow the economic forum, the dialogue that the president promised whilst in opposition. That share your ideas. What do you think? How do you go from here? You feed that into the policy of the government and announce it through the budget. Nii, good morning.
Good morning, Sina.
How are you?
By His grace.
Yesterday, somebody was asking me. I said, "Oh, the wind is still not strong enough." He said, how do you find the wind of change?" I said, "I'm here to feel the wind, but the wind is still not strong enough."
Well, what do you expect to feel after such a very bad performance over the past 8 years? I mean, it will be a gradual process. You can push it. Economic issues don't get treated in a manner which you would all wish it is done. It cannot be overnight.
Okay.
It takes a very painful, time-taking solutions to bring all actors involved together and monitor how they also react and also behave towards decisions. And it's about pushing solutions and actually monitoring those solutions and ensuring that the outcomes are what exactly we expect.
And talking about that, I don't know if you've had the opportunity of listening to the governor of the Bank of Ghana and the president himself. Did they set the right tone?
Yes, they did. They did set the right tone. I think I'll start with the president. His commitment to the BOG in the sense that I will not interfere. I will take my executive powers away from your professional duty given. And that promise is good and refreshing to hear. You may take this lightly, but in the international community, it does a lot of good for us. People who wants to do business with us would always look out for some of these things. And the way he went around it, I think it's very good.
The commitment not to interfere.
Yes.
Like he talked about the independence of the Bank of Ghana.
Yes.
That you respect the independence of the Bank of Ghana. You said people who want to do business with Ghana will look at it. Why is it a big deal?
It's a big deal because, you see, you would have somebody from the Ministry of Finance sitting on the board of BOG.
Okay.
Right? And therefore, when the president says, I will not interfere, it's not personally getting involved. But sometimes the president can interfere through the manipulations of the finance ministry. And therefore, I believe he, with his experience, clearly understands what he stated. That I will not personally interfere, but also through the fiscal policy section, we will also not interfere with your duties.
So you're saying that there are two things that he's saying there.
Yes.
That I will not put pressure on you personally.
Yes.
But in order for the president's commitment to make sense, he must also ensure that the finance minister acting on his behalf does not do things that affect the monetary side.
Absolutely.
That's an interesting. Is that avoidable?
Yes, it is avoidable professionally. You see, one has the duty of monetary policy and shaping monetary policies and all that. And one has the responsibility of fiscal planning and all that, fiscal policy and all that. The issue is they will meet at some point. Right? When you operate a certain fiscal policy, it would mean that you push up the monetary aggregates and all that, and so that you have a lot of liquid, excess liquid in the system.
Okay.
Now, the governor did say in terms of his commitments that, look, I'm going to use the open market operations to actually mop up excess liquidity, make sure I put inflation in check and all that. Now that will also affect what the Ministry of Finance is doing. If the Ministry of Finance is pushing so hard in terms of expenditure, then it means that you end up pushing up the liquidity in the system, putting more money in the system. And if that does not sit well with the BOG, they should have a free hand to go in there and put in the necessary operations to make sure they mop out those liquidity to stabilize the market and all that. So yes, the two sides will always meet at some point. Now, if you come telling me that the president says that don't go this way, don't act, then it is interference. Or if the Ministry of Finance is saying, well, I am doing this, so you don't do that, then again, it is interference. The reason we did not put both together is to avoid some of these things. And therefore, the independence of the BOG and the governor is really not about the fun of it, but it is for it to ensure that credibility in the system in terms of the economy. So yes, the interference shouldn't come personally, and it shouldn't come indirectly through the Ministry of Finance as well.
But like you said, they always have to work hand
in hand.
The finance minister,
yes,
and the governor of the Bank of
They
Ghana.
must be professionals. That's all. And
be professionals.
And knowing Atu and hearing from the CMA, I think that yes, they can work together to achieve that.
In fact, during the Akufo-Addo administration, you said majority of the struggles that the Bank of Ghana faced came from the finance ministry.
Exactly.
So the matter of inflation.
Yeah.
Which then goes to affect interest rates.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the exchange rate is affected.
Yeah.
The currency strength was affected, among others.
It affected the exchange rate as well.
So in this situation that they find themselves, how do they resolve this issue? Because you're saying that the fiscal caused the problem. But it is the problem now become, because everywhere when you hear inflation, people say it's the job of the Bank of Ghana. Interest rate is the job of the Bank of Ghana. Exchange rate becomes the job of the Bank of Ghana. So who solved the problem?
Well, the inflation is not solely the job of BOG. Ministry of Finance also have a huge role to play in terms of inflation. If you look at the way the trajectory in terms of the inflation, recent inflation movement, then you would understand that food inflation is quite a determinant in terms of pushing inflation up. So that will not sit with the BOG, that will sit with the Ministry of Finance in terms of policy. What are we doing with our great ministry and all that? What interventions are we putting in there? What sort of budget are we running? Are we running a balanced budget or a performance budget and all that? All that will fuse into what BOG also do. If BOG says that, look, I have too much liquidity in the system, then Ministry of Finance shouldn't be pumping too much liquidity into the system through expenditure. Right? I am sure, and that is probably why the Ministry of Finance sits on the board of BOG, so that they can be able to work together. It's just a matter of understanding each other and knowing where you are at whichever point. It is very critical that the president also mentioned that, look, these indicators and the figures we throw about in terms of percentages and all that have meaning. These are reactions and actions of people. So whatever action BOG takes, the market will react. Same to the Ministry of Finance. So the key word here is proper monitoring and understanding why those indicators and making sure that you have the proper understanding of the reaction and behavior of the markets before you go on and take any decision. You will remember that in 2022, when we had the I think around April, when the exchange rates moved really upward, and it was nobody took decision until August. But what was the decision taken? To bring a lot more restriction on the forex market, and that restriction in and around August caused more problems for us.
Okay.
It means that you did not really understood what the market is all about.
Okay.
And you went ahead to take a decision. And the decision further aggravated the situation on hand. And that is what we must avoid.
So, and you came to that because the person was talking about the human consequences. Close banks without considering the impact, not only on trying to, like you said, protect the financial sector, but also even talking about the impact on that same financial sector, and then the impact on jobs, the impact of small businesses, the impact on the big ones. How many businesses closed subsequently after that? How many small microfinance companies suffered because of that decision? You're saying that is key. You must consider everything before you take those decisions.
For instance, the closure of those banks, right? People can make arguments against or for.
Okay.
But the critical thing is that it took away confidence in our financial sector. And our banking sector controls almost 80% of our financial sector.
Okay.
We do not have a strong capital market in terms of the stock exchange.
Okay.
Right? Our insurance sector is not doing too well for me.
Okay.
And so clearly the financial sector is being held by the banking sector and probably these the other financial services and all that. Look, the moment you touch the banks and it affects people and the livelihood of people, it does a lot to the confidence of dealing with these financial firms again.
Okay.
There may be good financial firms or banking banks and all that. They will be doing their job well. They will be doing everything well. But just because I know your next door neighbor is on fire, I will have to take certain reactions against you to protect myself, just thinking that tomorrow you could face the same consequences. So aside the loss of jobs and everything, it did a lot of bad for us in terms of confidence. And this will go on for several years. And that is why sometimes you just don't close banks. You know, it has to be always very smooth. Bank A is closing, yes. Banks will close every day for whatever reasons. But once it is closing today, everything should be taken up by another bank. And make sure that we had to deal with the payment of some banks and after the customers of some bank, and it was all not transparent enough, no clear timelines and all that. All that really affected the financial markets, and that is what we should avoid.
Well, we are preparing to go into the budget cycle, and a lot of work. In fact, I believe the IMF, I don't know whether they are done with the conversations they were having with the key managers of the economy. One of them was the one that was sworn in yesterday, but I know he's been part of those meetings with the International Monetary Fund. I think there's someone, I'm not sure whether it was you or was Kwekuri Case-Hagan, who was of the opinion that this IMF program has really not added anything not had any serious impact on the economy. Do you agree with that? Can that be turned around? What value does the IMF offer us at this time? A new government coming in, yes, they are under IMF program, they must respect that program. What value would the IMF actually offer us?
Well, the issue is this. Once you get into a program and it is signed, having it reviewed or changed drastically will be difficult.
Okay. Having it reviewed or changed drastically
would be quite difficult.
Okay.
I don't really see much of that.
So they can make some allowances, but
yes, they can make some allowances, small, but it will be petty enough to even worry your head about it.
Okay.
The issue with this program is that it was just to give us a breathing space and nothing more than that. A huge chunk of our debts, right, sits with not the World Bank, but sits with other creditors and external in nature. Most of those were, I would say, are under the creditors arrangement, which they are giving us some 2.8 billion over some period of years. I'm sure it will be within a range of 5 years. And this is not like free money. They are directing how you should even use the 2.8 billion. To propel economic growth, so that you can be. Some time ago I said here that all they are preparing you for is not to get broke and not be able to pay their money. So they want to resuscitate you to be able to come back to life and pay them back their money, because as much as possible they also need it for their financial stability and everything out there. They are there. In fact, they gave us the money to make money. And they must make money. They must be good businessmen. So no fault of theirs. It's you who went out there to look out for money. What we can do, on the other hand, is to manage fiscal policy a bit tightly and more responsibly, and making sure that whatever we put money in, we get the utmost results or outcomes. Because if we fail to do that, we will be compounding the already devastating situation we find ourselves in. And that is what we need to do. A lot will depend on the Ministry of Finance and the programs that we will put up. I would wish that we would not rush it and put in a lot of flagship programs in our first year. Mind you, we have given the promises out when we've given those promises, and recently the president reiterates them. And I think the Minister of Finance at his vetting also indicated that we will be taking like some 6-7 billion off the revenue line.
Yes.
Yet we are pushing up tax revenue target to about 200 billion.
Yes.
Without anything coming in terms of any stimulation of the economy, industry, and all that. Agric is not performing that well, and all that. So, if you push it over the bar, we will fall into similar challenges like they did in the past. And therefore, we should be very cautious of how we move forward.
Very cautious of how we move forward.
Yeah.
You talked about tight fiscal management. You say is the way out.
That's the only way out.
Because the president when the president spoke to Labour, aside calling the management of economy and the Kufuor criminal, he said he's giving the finance minister the power to cut as much as possible.
Well, that is more like a negotiating strategy. I have done nothing. So deal with me as me. Don't look at the past. And so yes, the president has been a good negotiator. Now, the issue here is that yes, you can cut, but cutting also means that certain areas that used to perform may not be able to perform.
Okay.
And therefore, you must be sure of where you are cutting.
Okay.
Now, for me, I will advise for a balanced budget.
A balanced budget. Okay.
What it means is that whatever you make is what you can actually spend. Now, the regime where we are able to spend even when we have not made money or rake in revenue should be a thing of the past.
You spend what you have been able to rake in.
Exactly. And that restriction should be ensured.
That's what you call a balanced budget.
Exactly.
So at least let's break even.
Exactly.
No deficit at all.
If I wish,
That there will be no deficit.
I wish that we would not go on the same trajectory as they did, running a deficit of 64 billion in one fiscal year. I don't think that we can sustain that going forward.
But I mean, is that possible? Because if you put together the debt servicing, interest payments, I think interest payment is part of debt servicing, then the repayment of debt, I think they call something amortization. Issues around debt alone, and you add compensation to it, you are having over the revenue target, typically.
Yes, that is very true. That is very true. But also, aside these things, we have programs that we will spend on.
Okay.
We will create programs that we will spend on. Right? I think the last budget has over some almost 300 billion in terms of expenditure.
Almost 300 billion.
Yeah.
Okay.
With a revenue target of 174 billion. Right? I'm not saying that don't spend. I am saying that spend what you have in hand.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. So instead of saying that I've given you a contract, go get money from a bank and go and execute the contract should be a thing of the past. And then you have some commitment and obligations to actually pay. When in fact, all you are targeting is to first and foremost get the money in the future. So when the money does not come in, then you are exposed. You want to take on a project, make sure the money is in. Then you can undertake it.
But that will, you see, what you're proposing is a drastic change in the way we have approached things over the past.
Yes.
So different approach.
That is the only way.
That even before you build that school, make sure you have the money.
Exactly.
But that school is needed now.
Well, it is needed now. No doubt about it. But we can always re-engineer and make sure that although we do not build this school, right, we could improve a rural road to give access to those same people to attend another school.
In the interim, while you look for the money to build that school.
Exactly.
I see. That's an interesting approach anyway. And you understand
it is difficult.
Yeah,
I'm
yes.
not saying it is not difficult, but we have to take very difficult decisions. The difficult decision is not those difficult decisions very responsibly taken in the past.
Okay.
This is a very responsible decision and very difficult one to say. Right? But we must do it. Because you see, where we are now, if our budget alone each year can require us borrowing over 2.8 billion, then what business do we have taking on a relief of 2.8 billion?
Doesn't really do anything.
It doesn't. So before you get over with the 2 billion, you have already put or replaced that same 2 billion. What you service, the amortization you pay for today, before you finish paying, you have actually bought another debt again of the same value. So no improvement, nothing changes.
So you're saying the current system guarantees a cycle of debt?
Exactly. And there must be a great departure. Yes, it will be difficult. Yes, the Ghanaian will not see that flamboyant infrastructure and all the nice, roads and all that we wish for and we all hope to have in our communities and all that. But it is to actually repair the damage that has been caused.
You're talking about where we are. And in fact, that's what the president has to do tomorrow. Tell us where we are. The state of the nation. What do you think? Where do you think we are? Of course, we'll be waiting to hear from the president. He has a much more detailed, so they'll present a sector-by-sector account of where we are to him. You decide what to tell the Ghanaian people, because sometimes when you say everything, people will collapse. So, but looking from what you know, where are we as a country?
Well, I would not assume the responsibility of the
I'll
president.
be the president.
But what I can say is this: look, we are not in a good position, and we are not in a position to smile or be happy about going forward, because going forward means a lot today. Going forward means a lot of hard work, a lot of discipline. Being disciplined for somebody's recklessness is very difficult.
Okay.
And therefore, I would say that we are in a very precarious position economically. We are in a position where there is an impression and an imprint on our brains and minds and everything, how things should go and how things should not go economically. And all that must be, in a way, emptied.
Okay.
And just to make sure that the future, and when I say the future, I'm saying the next 12 years.
The next 12 years?
Yes.
Okay.
Next.
You okay. I think I cut in, so I don't know where you were landing. When you say the next 12 years, I was wondering whether John Mahama has 12 years.
No, we all Ghanaians have 12 years to ensure that we put this nation in the hands of people who are more responsible, who shows who show duty of care at work, and make sure that it is not about themselves, but it's about the common good of all of us, and keeping the credibility of this nation together and in place. But I don't see what is the president will tell us, but to tell us that, well, there is nothing. We met nothing. Whatever we met cannot be able to support us going forward. And therefore, we must, the usual word, we must tighten our belt and ensure that we must tighten our belts, bite the bullet, and all that, those phrases. And encourage us all to understand what is coming. I am sure the president has been fairly briefed, and therefore he knows where exactly we stand. And going forward, the pain in going forward, I think he knows, and he will address the nation, I'm sure, tomorrow. And when he does, I'm sure we would all also get to know where we stand. We have all the sectors are not performing.
All of them.
All the sectors. In fact, agric is nosediving. The agric sector is nosediving, and the reason why we have inflation being hitched up by the food side of inflation. The non-food side is kind of improving, but not to the levels we would all wish it does. Then in terms of performance, agric again is not doing well. But then when it comes to industry is also doing a bit well, but it is not enough for us to be happy about. We need to do a lot in there. In terms of fiscal, we have a lot of debt to service and to pay, and in these periods we would have to. We are looking at over almost 80% debt to GDP, which for me, I believe it is even more than that. If you, depending on how you look at it, you calculate it. I believe it is more than that. But hey, this is where we are. Our GDP must be given meaning. And I think when Isiama spoke, he touches on some of these things, how we have recognized certain indicators and all that. We must depart from them. We must be more forward-looking. We must be able to silence the speculations and all that. And all depends on how transparent we are, and how we build reserves enough to ensure that we don't face the issues we faced in the past. Again, if you look at it, for the past 8 years, we've been having excess export over import. Yet we have real issues with exchange rates. And it should tell you that there is something really wrong about whatever we did in the past, and we must have a relook at it. It is good that from the speeches I have heard, they really know what went wrong.
So far they're getting the narrative right.
Yes.
Okay. They have a clear idea.
They have a clear idea of what went wrong.
Okay.
The issue is how to handle them.
Okay.
And handling them with one solution approach, for me, it doesn't work for me.
Okay.
You must handle it with whatever approach you are coming in with, but you must be monitoring every step of the policies you introduce and all that. There is a talk of changing the Foreign Exchange Act of 2006 and all that. Yes, and bringing in the Pan-African payment system and all that. That is good, right? We trade amongst ourselves, and why should we need dollars to trade with Nigeria and all that? You know, the realization of this will really support the entire sub-region.
Okay.
Again, the way we have handled reserve and done things, I would believe, in terms of gold, for instance, I think it's a critical place to look at. It is good, and I'm happy to see something I had advocated for about the gold board, and we should be able to trade in gold locally here. It shouldn't be too difficult for me trading in gold.
Okay.
Now, if I can trade in gold in a very transparent manner and all that, and I have access to it, and once I have the money and that's where I want to invest into and all that, then it will reduce the issues of galamsey and the all the issues that surrounds galamsey. Again, when it comes to that, I heard the president saying that, I won't interfere in terms of the printing of money. I think we should go beyond that.
Okay.
That any time,
Go beyond the matter of printing of money.
yes, whatever money we print should not be based on what we borrow. It should be based on how much gold we have sitting in our reserves.
Okay. The money we print should be backed by gold. Okay.
And therefore, if you are not able to increase your gold reserve, you cannot print.
I see. Whatever money you print should be backed by gold.
Yeah.
And if you do not have the gold reserve to cater for the money you're about to print, you don't touch it. You don't do it at all.
Yes.
Why? And how would that change anything?
It changes everything. We borrow, let's say, we are given $1 billion.
Okay.
That $1 billion sits at the Bank of Ghana, and then they say, "Oh, okay, we have an opening to print so much, and we need to spend the $1 billion for projects."
Okay.
Maybe we brought it in for the Pukwase projects, and so we want to spend. We will not spend that USD.
Yes.
We will give out what?
Cedis.
So we go ahead and print because we have that allowance to print. The law gives us the mandate to print and all that. The fact that you have that mandate and you are within the legal mandate does not mean that printing it will not cost you a lot more inflation. Now, if we are printing and the gold, our gold we have, it's worth 5 billion. I would prefer you print the 5 billion in cedis. I will not restrict you. I will be happy that you print.
Okay.
Because you see, the 1 billion will go out at some point. There will be a payback of that 1 billion.
Yeah.
And whatever you have printed will still remain in the system. You need another hard currency, right, to pay that. And that cannot be printed here.
Okay.
And therefore, the only commodity that can be of a direct exchange to that 1 billion is the gold.
Okay.
So invariably, it's 1-on-1. With the dollar, gold and dollar can be rated 1-on-1.
Okay.
So it is safe to say that when I have the gold sitting down and I am printing, the money has a strong backing in foreign currency. Yet, that foreign currency I hold in terms of gold has no obligation on it. That must be looked at. Well, I know there is a discussion with the Gold Board, BOG.
In fact, the governor also
and the governor
talked about
it and all that. But I think more than just the foreign exchange law that has to be amended, the BOG Act itself must be looked at again.
Okay. The act must be looked at again.
I mean, the previous administration exposed a lot of weaknesses
in the
act.
And even that one, because the I don't know whether it was the old act, because I realized that under John Dramani Mahama, number one, before Akufo-Addo came in, they did some work on that act. Because they had found that the banking sector, the financial sector, was going ahead of the act, so they needed to catch up with the trends. You're still saying that they need to still look at that act.
Yeah, it still needs to
mainly
look at
because of what the Bank of Ghana itself did under Akufo-Addo.
Yeah.
And if they are doing the review, what should they do? What new should they introduce to ensure that what happened under Akufo-Addo does not happen?
You can't say that BOG can print as much as 5% of its previous revenues in terms of what if that does not sit well with us? How is it backed?
Okay.
You know,
is it that part should be?
Yes, I mean, we can find time and go through it. There are a lot of issues with it that we will have to really look at. Why are we making laws on the EF and all that? We should look at that. You see, you have the BOG have US dollars. The market, they need to intervene in the market. And then they bring in the dollars and they will get what in returns? They will get cedis in returns. When they have the cedis, and at some point, we are all demanding imports, and therefore the bills needs to be settled in US dollars. It's the same BOG that has to find the US dollars, and if the US dollars is not there, now what you have done is only to transfer the challenges from our end in terms of the market and place it at the BOG end.
Okay.
And then when there is trouble at the BOG end, we come back with that same CD that has lost a lot of value already within a short period. We have to come back to the market and try and correct it again by buying dollars from the market because you don't have a lot coming in terms of your export revenues and all that. I mean, for me, I think it doesn't work. It doesn't really make sense to me. And we need to look at all these aspects of the BOG Act itself. BOG in itself needs a lot of reforms.
I see. Very interesting. So there's a lot to really look for. In fact, this is Blaise Kenugbelega commenting on what you said. That your guest says the nation need 12 years to have the country to be in the hands of the people who will take us to where we seek to be. We're actually going to have 16 years till 2036 when the NDC leaves power. That is what is in the womb of time. In fact, your late friend, Dr. David Percy, always held the opinion that it's going to take decades to correct it.
Yeah.
He is not saying. So your 12 years is, you're thinking that within these 12 years, you should put people in power who understands the responsibility that they are confronted with. The people who are responsible to put Ghana back on a certain track. You're not saying that we would have recovered fully?
No.
Even within 12 years, we will not have recovered.
No. You see,
so what would the 12 years, what do we need to do within this?
I don't think you've read my article published by the British Journal. And what what they call it's a novel. It is a novelty. In fact, is that economics. There is one part of it that has never been studied, or been talked anywhere. It is always a template created in economics. And most times, you can change administration, you can change the officers and everything, but that template keep repeating itself. The 12 years I'm talking of is to erase the current template and try and establish a more workable template within 12 years. I think this is the best thing that could have happened to Ghana if we are able to do it within this short possible period of 12 years.
So phase out what was.
Yeah. introduce
what will work under the circumstances.
Exactly.
You're talking about revolutionary change.
Well, I will not
you don't
want
like
to use
revolutions.
revolution. I don't see revolution. Look, it's common sense.
Okay.
If you study the Russian economy, you will realize what they did. When they were being kicked out of the payment system, right? Everybody thought Russia would go down.
Yes.
Okay. And then they said, we are sanctioning you. We are not buying your oil, right? But you have the Indians buying Russian oil. You have other nations buying Russian oil. And then you have markets who said they will not deal with Russia going to India and buying oil. Whose oil are you buying?
The same oil you say you won't buy. Russia.
So Russia changed the template. Russia did nothing but change the template. You don't want to deal with me, I'm fine. But about 2-3 people wants to deal with me. And where you have the commodity you need, you will move there. So if the commodity sits in India, you will go there. But India did not produce those oil they are selling. Now you buy it, and you even buy it at a higher price
than you would have gotten
exactly
directly from Russia.
Exactly. And it says, you will not deal with me. Anybody who wants to deal with me, I'm rejecting your dollar. Bring me the rubles. And a war, a nation at war, the currency keeps strengthening over the period. It's unusual. That was not the template of Russia. So it is not, when you talk of revolution, a lot comes into the Ghanaian mind that is going to be hey, and all that. But yes, it is revolutionary.
Yeah.
But, it is not loud. It is smooth. It is about thinking through the issues and finding solutions. And it's not about drumming it. It's not about being popular. The results
will speak
for you. And that is the position we should take. The historical template cannot help us. It is very difficult to erase the historical template, to say that we will not do A, B, C, D, when we are all used to doing A, B, C, D. And therefore we will do X, Y, Z.
And for you, that is the temptation of those who are in office currently.
Exactly.
To use the same old template that has failed one administration
exactly
after another.
Exactly.
So they need to start the process of phasing out the old and finding one that works for us.
Absolutely.
And for you, that's how you interpret reset.
That is what is reset. That's what this is what we call a true reset. Without phasing out the template. Look, if you study some of the things we have done recently in terms of economic management, it's all been repeated over and over from Nkrumah's time. In 1964, we were having liquidity rise to about 23%, and between 1961 to 1964, our money supply rose to about 23%, and we had issues. In President Mahamad's period, I think around 2012 or so, we had money rising above I think around 32%, and we had issues. Under Akufo-Addo, money supply rose around to about 35%, and we had issues. So you see, unknowingly, we keep repeating the same templates, and we keep having the same results. The issue is to move away completely from those templates. And then once it is taken out of our minds, then we can be looking towards a more fruitful way of managing this economy.
I know I have to let you go. This is Harun Asani who says, in fact, I'm enjoying your program, but I have this question for your guests. Is it not good to borrow and invest in agriculture sector, which I think will help improve the economy in subsequent years? Is that if you're borrowing, invest in agri?
I've always said we need a debt doctrine.
Okay.
Why should you borrow? Who are you borrowing from?
Okay.
At what rates
Okay.
is it allowable for me to borrow in terms of this sector or that sector. Look, why should you borrow for agric?
Okay.
Now, the issue is if I have to borrow money, hard currency, and invest in agric, then certainly my produce should be exportable produce that are able to give me foreign currency.
Okay.
Now, you don't go and borrow dollars, invest in agric, and sell in cedis, and go chasing dollars out there. Who should bring that dollars in for you?
Okay. So what you are investing into should be something you should sell for the dollar.
The greatest challenge of Ghana and Africa has been that we borrow hard currencies, we bring them in to produce what will be sold in our local currencies, and then we go chasing for dollars.
So what about borrowing internally rather?
Yes, and that is
To pay for agric.
you are allowed to borrow internally because you see, when you borrow internally, there is no demand on you to actually go look for foreign currency, which the cash route is the cash cycle there, it's a bit longer.
Okay.
Right? And it's also not too predictable
Okay.
because gold prices can plummet, it can rise, cocoa prices the same. So if you envisage getting so much and you end up not getting it, there is an element of price risk in there and all that. Now, if it is your own local currency, then that is more safer than when it is in foreign currency. So I will say no to borrowing hard currency to produce what will not bring you foreign currency. That attitude, that behavior, that template must be wiped off.
I see. Let me conclude with you by asking you what you think about this matter of last minute recruitments and those people being told go home.
Well, you want my honest opinion?
Yes.
My honest opinion is not to say those who just came in should go. My honest opinion is to take a complete audit of our working staff based on performance and need basis, and make sure that those that are not needed are cut off completely, and it will be more than what is going. Because certainly we need to do, I don't see why government should pay over 64 billion when in fact your tax revenue is somewhere a little over 100 billion.
Why you should be spending 64 billion on compensation alone?
Yeah, because your output, right, should justify what we spend in you. So we cannot spend so much. The ratio at least should be 1:3. So if we are doing 64, we should be doing revenue 3 times 64. End of story. If we are not able to do that, then certainly the wage budget
Needs to
go down drastically. I mean, the reason why this is being done is not to say, and that is the way we handled it, kind of look like, oh, it is MPP, they are MPP. No. The issue here is that it is about what the budget can contain. What is the meaning of employing somebody when you cannot pay that person? So for me, I think the way it was handled, but it's about justification. What are they coming in to produce? So much so that we needed them. Are there vacancies, actual vacancies that we needed, and therefore they have been employed and all that? That explanation should have been better done than the way it was handled. It was handled in a blanket manner, and therefore the challenge we have. But if it has been handled in such a way that, okay, the Ministry of Finance, this number of people have been employed, it is going to add so much to our expenditure requests, and we have been given this level to operate with, and therefore we are sorry we cannot. That is more, I think, that would have saved us all this brouhaha going around. I mean, for me, when it comes to money and business, the question you should ask yourself is simple. My inputs, at the end of the day, would my outcome or output justify my inputs? How do I put 1 cedi in a business only to make 1 cedi 50 pesos? How? What am I going to use for my own gratification? What would I reinvest? What would I, unforeseen challenges and all that coming through and all that? How am I going to handle all that? And that is the situation Ghana finds itself in. Because look, today, if something hits us, like a disaster and all that, where are we going to pick money from?
Well, Nii, let me conclude the message from Bliskenu Blega, who says, you remember I sent you something in your DM. Well, the womb of time is pregnant with a steep nose dive in the economy fortunes of the country beginning April. It's going to be so steep that everyone will be up in arms. Other things will follow, resulting in a reshuffle in the last quarter of the year. It is following that you see the true beauty of GM's second coming. It is established. That is Blaze the prophet. Nii, thank you.
I will say that, I mean, the prediction of April is known. I mean, the template is clear. It's anytime we are around April, that is the time there is a lot of demand on government. In fact, our fiscal calendar year, our fiscal year itself ends in April.
Okay.
Right. So a lot of the things we would have to pay in terms of the private sector itself, most of them have 90 days credit. So they are preparing, and they will be needing a lot of money around that time to pay their credits and all that, to meet those obligations. Then you would have government also having to settle, in terms of the first quarter, having to settle amortizations and all that, and interest payment and all that. The 91-day bill that we issue, I mean, that is more patronized. That is the time all those obligations on government in terms to pay of paying interest and all that will come. And therefore, it is a norm. It is not a prophecy.
Okay. I understand. Thank you very much.
Right.
Nii Yarboi Annan is a financial analyst. We're just having a conversation around the state of Ghana, and he joined in studio to have that conversation. We'll continue the rest of the show. But what do you think? Tomorrow we'll spend some more time asking you what you think the state of Ghana is. What do you see? He doesn't see anything to smile about. Do you agree that there's nothing